There it is.
I'm Brent Leary.
Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and I look a little different. You
Still
don't
the
know.
same wonderful Brent you always are.
We are the CRM Playaz, and this is a little different kind of show because I'm on location, as they say,
That's right.
deep in the heart of Houston, Texas. I lived here for a year. It's
in Houston?
When I was working at PricewaterhouseCoopers, I had to go back and forth between Atlanta and Houston every week for 52 straight weeks. Yeah, but it was kind of nice.
Great memories.
Yeah. Great memories of Houston Intercontinental Airport and Houston Hobby Airport. And
you went through Hobby? I've never been to Hobby. I've only been to Intercontinental.
I've been through once, and that was enough.
Intercontinental is so big. What? Who? What?
It's Intercontinental. That's why. Anyway, we are the CRM Playaz, and we are at the moment is Finn. All right, we got another moment. You're saying yay now.
Sven, yay. All right. Indonesian.
Wow, that was quick.
I don't know what I'm right. I'm just saying.
Who's Marie Forleo?
I have no idea. She's certainly not Indonesian.
He's giving us quotes now.
I'm thinking Indonesian. It could be marginally Malaysian or something, but I'll say Indonesian for now.
All right. Indonesian. We'll just wait for Sven to let us know if you're right or not. But anyway, we are the CRM Playaz. We've been doing this since 2009.
Doing what?
I don't know. Bringing the,
yeah.
That. We've been bringing that
since 2009.
Yes. And as I said a little earlier, I am not in my usual confines. I am on location in Houston at Zoholics 2025 USA. You got to say USA because there's going to be a ton of Zoholics all across the world, from what I've been told.
So but I'm in Houston. I got it right. That means that's what that probably means. Paul, this does not make fun because I think I got it right.
Apparently you did.
Did I get it right, Sven? Yep.
Clarity comes from doing, not thinking.
Not thinking. Marie Forleo.
Have you ever heard of her? Marie Forleo?
No. Hey, Sven, do you know anything about the Marie Forleo? I knew I had it right though. I'm good on. So I do so much better. Why don't we just call the moment of Sven Sump the Godfather, and combine the two and do that?
Because unlike Sven, I'm used to stumping you. Apparently, Sven is getting a little well, I mean, we've been doing this for a long time. There's not that many languages left, apparently.
A lot of dialects though, and they'll be stumped.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway, yes, we are CRM Playaz. I am coming from live from Zoholics in Houston. I've been here. Did I get here yesterday? I think I got here on Tuesday. It's Thursday.
You're going from conference to conference to conference to conference.
This is the third week in a row, and believe me, I'm not Ray Wong. I'm not used to doing this anymore. he could go to conference to conference and all in one day.
I know. I was once at a conference with him in New Orleans, and he literally said to me, can you cover for me? I have to go to San Diego. I'll be back tonight. And I am not joking. He was back that night.
Wow,
that's literally crazy. Flew from New Orleans, San Diego, and back in one day.
That is ridiculous. But that is Ray Wong.
And I had somebody actually ask me, "Have you seen Ray?" I said, "No, not lately. He was here." That's all I said. He's somewhere, right? So,
all right. So,
hey, Michael.
Hello from Palm Desert, California. Zoholics? I am Brent Leary, and I am a Zoholic. What? Come on, man. Nah, this name is I asked Raju how many. When did Zoholics get started? 2012. You remember? Because you spoke. You were the keynote.
I was the keynote, very first one.
2012.
I remember the conversation I had with Raju and Sridhar at that event too. And I remember that.
Was that some hotel in California?
Yeah, I can picture it, but I don't remember the name of it at
Was it the Hotel California? No.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, that night we had a concert by the Eagles.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, it's Rebecca Letterman.
Man,
Thank goodness.
Where are you, Rebecca? I'm sure you're
like
somewhere.
There's like 5 things going on. And I bet Patrick's at one and she's at another or something like that. So.
The good news for me is I'm at the one I want to be at, my house.
Yeah, Zoholics Manassas.
That's exactly right. I'm going. You know what I'm doing after this? Going for a haircut.
Nice. So yeah, I'm at Zoholics. You're not, but we do have some of your favorite folks. A couple of your favorite folks will be joining us later on since we're out here. Yeah, I'll tell you. Sandy Lowe, who is head of corporate communications, she'll be joining us. And I think for the first time ever, because I don't think we've ever had her on the show.
No.
Summer Parker Perry will be joining us. And she heads up the customer advisory stuff and helps to put together the customer advisory board, handles all the customer use cases. It'll be interesting to talk to her because I'm telling you, there's 1,600 people here this year. And from what Raju told me, about half of those people signed up in the last month.
I believe it. That's
pretty amazing.
I remember the very first Zoholics, when I was at in 2012, there was like 125 people. That was it.
Raju said that exact same thing because I asked him, "Do you remember that first one?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course." And, because it's come quite a ways.
Yeah, 125 people at that event, and that was it. And Gene Marks, I think, spoke at it too about something.
Gene Marks, wow, I haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah, I want to say he was the other speaker. I keynoted, and then Gene Marks spoke, and then it was maybe someone.
Speaker?
I don't remember Ray speaking. He might have been. I don't know. It's weird. I'm shocked I wouldn't remember him, and I would remember Gene Marks.
That's kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, and it was still fun, and it was a couple of years later that Raju and I had a chat about when they would. What year did they move to Austin?
That was after the pandemic, right? Or right before? Is it right before or right after? I can't remember.
I think it was right before. So 2019, 2018?
Yeah, maybe around there.
I think by that time, I remember Raju, even though this didn't actually happen, Raju was talking to me about building their own event space that would hold like 5,000 people or something. But that also showed you not just the level of ambition, but the level of growth that they were also undergoing around that time too, which was, just incredible. And they did something I did not think possible, really, which to their great credit, it's actually one of I think the biggest achievement they've actually had, which is, I remember talking to Raju about having this conversation with him where we were saying, look, as you grow, your culture is going to change. It's just inevitable. You don't know everybody anymore and blah, 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 blah. And look, I mean, the reality is they've grown enormously and they've managed, obviously some smaller things have changed, but in general, they managed to retain their culture. And I did not think it was possible at the level of growth that they've had to do that. I didn't. So I was wrong. I mean, but they somehow have managed to sustain that kind of, socially conscious, publicly empathetic culture with the enormous growth that they've had since back then, which is, to me, to be honest, I don't know that any other company or group of people could do that. And look, think of all the other companies we know. The cultures have all changed.
Yeah.
Salesforce, ServiceNow, even, they've all changed. But these guys have kept the incredible culture they have. And how many employees do they have now? Like 30,000 or something?
No.
No, I don't know.
I
20. I
think it's
don't know.
between 18 and somewhere around 18, 19,000, something like
All
that.
right, so 18, 19,000 employees, and yet they've retained a culture that was meant for about 250 employees, probably, right? But they've somehow done that, which is scaled a culture at this kind of culture. It's just almost unheard. Well, it's not almost unheard of. Other than them, it's unheard of.
Hmm. All right. So before we jump into that, a little bit more about what I've seen, and of course, bringing in the A team here, uh, we did have service now last week. We did a couple of. Oh, I did one year. You were doing whatever you do when you're not at an event. Um, but what did you think in retrospect of everything that came out from Service Now last week?
Well, I guess if because one of the things I did do after we did the watch party was look at the stuff like that you did, and also just started reading the other stuff. And yeah, I would say this: the only thing I would change from the comments we made during the watch party are that they still blew their keynote opportunity. Are they a CRM company? Would I still like them to do more than that? Are they really competitive with a Salesforce? No, not really. Not at that level yet. It doesn't mean they won't be. They're certainly capable of it. But and I think it's the point you made with Terrence is that they're aware of that, right? I think you mentioned that, right? And so that says something. I still think if I'm looking at the keynote, their opportunity to present their view, let's call it their perspective on CRM, their vision. No, it's not a vision. Their perspective on CRM, their kind of focus of it. They still blew that one way or the other. They still blew it, and and their messaging around AI was I'm not changed a bit on that. To Rebecca's point, the next day when you and she and John did Brohammer did the watch party. I agree with her though, on the idea of the fabric that when she was talking about the fabric. That's again, it's kind of goes to the point we all made, which was technologically they're really amazing what they're doing. Do they they want to become, I guess, a new way of looking at the AI platform of platforms. In a matter of speaking, will they? That was harder than just becoming the platform of platforms, given that everybody is trying to do that or something like that.
Yeah.
Their adaptability to new language models, I don't know how good it is or how poor it is. I can't tell. If I'm viewing it overall, technologically, they've made an enormous amount of progress. The AI is good. It sounds to me like their understanding of where they are in CRM is pretty accurate. But I don't think their idea of they're going to what is the word they use? Not redesign it. Kind of change it, change the meaning of it. That's not happening. So I don't know. What do you think? I mean, I'm only working on the follow-up I saw relative to what we saw. Again, big disappointment, though, still for the keynote being a big opportunity that they did not take good advantage of.
I don't know if I could just say that they didn't take full advantage. I think overall, so far this year, I don't know, few have really kind of looked at maybe the way we're looking at it. Like, and I'll be honest, I didn't look at it like that until we did the dual watch party, and I started thinking. I mean, of course, it's not really apples to apples, but she's Jensen got 40 million views from his speech. I don't even think they thought they would get that many, but the potential is there. The possibility is you can get this huge audience to pay attention to you, and it's usually only going to come from your opening keynote. I know there's a lot of other keynotes, but all eyes are on the opening keynote.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking back. How many over the years? How many do you really feel have seized the moment to the point like what we saw with Jensen? Because I mean, look, Adobe is just as a compelling company in our space, and they only had like 3,800 views. And then you see, there was a difference. Jensen's presentation, it felt kind of fresh, kind of, not scripted. The visuals were unbelievable. I mean, and his message, while everybody else is talking mostly about agentic, he had already moved past that. So it felt like, I don't know if they did it purposely or if it was just sort of happenstance. They created this opening keynote that grabs so much attention that you see millions versus almost every other. It almost feels like their keynotes aren't designed with that thought in mind, with the opportunity to reach millions with this.
And I agree with you. Look, if I'm looking at, to your point of over the years, probably the only other one, and it didn't, I'm sure, get anywhere near that kind of views, that was kind of in that realm, meaning it really grabbed attention and had a big impact. And this is going to be literally the most ironic possible thing I could say, was Larry Ellison's 2 years ago. I mean, given who gave it, that is literally the irony of all ironies, given that you know how he normally does it, subatomic particle conversations. He speaks in quantum, right? But the level of impact that had, partly because of the style he adopted, the subject matter he presented. Then he said, okay, we're Oracle, we're this, here's the world, here's what we do, here's an impact we're having in the world that we can point to, and here's some visuals on that impact that are really strong, and here's how it's going to make this a better place. I mean, he did so much in that one speech, did so much. It was kind of, I mean, even all the more surprising it came out of him, right? So I think other than that one, I'm trying to think back on who's
I'm
had.
I'm going to take a guess, and I'm going to say maybe 10 years ago, Dreamforce.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Like, there was a point where the whole industry just was captivated by that conference. And of course, Mark, and they do so many good things. Like, I like the walk and talk. I like the circular. He's going in and out of the audience. The demos. Remember when the one demo that really stood out was Tony Profit?
Yeah.
When he did and this is the guy.
What was it? The Marriott? He was doing a Marriott? Yeah, Marriott.
And this is like the chief of quality officer, and he's doing a product demo.
And it was out of this world, too.
It's a great job. It was just so different. And, a lot of the elements of Dreamforce haven't changed over the years. And I think that there probably does need to be some changing, because it doesn't feel as fresh as it did back then.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's all these different elements. Like with Mark, look, Mark's been, the natural speaker back in the early days, especially. He's the guy who everyone pretty much drew from. And honestly, from the standpoint of, let's say, the production of his specific speech, Jensen doesn't even hold a candle to that, to be honest. Right. I mean, they are so much better at it than NVIDIA is in terms of the actual activity and emotion, to your point, to walk through, look, if we were looking at pure production, I mean, back the earlier days of even the Adobe Digital Summit, much less Max, and even Creatio's conference, virtual conferences, they're produced. Yeah, I mean, they're produced incredibly well. I mean, magnificently. They don't have the clout or the pull by any means. They're not, they're nowhere near the level of NVIDIA in terms of interest, but they're brilliantly produced, right? And you can draw from it, and there's all kinds of things you can find, over the years to make this right. I think the problems become, it's like, AI. I think people it's one thing I've been lately realizing is people kind of misunderstand I think, and I may be wrong about this, but misunderstand why AI is such a big deal now, because they seem to think it has to do with the technology being used to produce this outcome. And the reality is that's not why it's a big deal. AI has been around since the 50s.
Yeah.
Okay. And so to me, the big deal is that it became conversational, it became humanized, and the response time was almost instant. Right? You take that, it impacted for the first time with OpenAI and Gen AI the right brain, right?
Yeah.
Not the left brain. And I think companies like guys like Jensen and others, even though they're producing these incredible technologies, they get that. They actually get that part. They're not trying to produce great algorithms, right, or code. They're trying to make sure it's more human. Again, I think the guy, we've mentioned this a million times because I love the quote, but Rob Pinkerton, the EVP of marketing at Oracle CX, nailed it. He nailed it absolutely with his one thing. The thing he liked about it is you could yell at it. I just think that is the best way to express it. But I think people better get that part straight, because that also tells you what triggers the brain when you're building these speeches and when you're doing these things. It's not the left part of your brain, it's the right side. And you need to build out there. And you have the opportunity with AI to do that, this AI, to do that. If you want to be the platform of platforms, know that, man. I mean, don't just think because you produce some large language model that's got privacy, data kept private and secure, that somehow that's going to make you any different than anyone else whatsoever, because it doesn't.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just making
That's
sure that
okay.
camera is set.
It seems to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I really noticed about, um, particularly Raju's presentation yesterday, he was talking about Zia and its AI.
They still call it Zia, though, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's really interesting. And what I saw is, you know, at a lot of the other events that we tend to go to, the AI talk is, kind of high in the sky kind of stuff. And I'm not saying it's not important, but it feels like, it's too far away from the practical kind
Right.
of the usage that people are looking. So here at this event with Raju, not only was he talking, but he did a live demo. And I mean, it was a live. It's like he even said, "Look, I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we're going to do it because we don't want to do canned things." And I was like, "Oh yeah," and people were right with him. But he was showing like practical use of this AI stuff. And this audience, I'm guessing, is majority small business,
Yeah.
small mid-size. They were right there. They were focused. They were involved. Because I think they saw he was coming at it from a more practical level, something tangible, something that they could see themselves doing, and people were all into it. And you don't necessarily see a lot of that practical talk. I think a lot of the keynotes are meant to like overwhelm you or like kind of like, well, we're way up here, and sometimes you need to start down here and let people know, well, where does this actually impact my everyday life, as a worker. And people were seeing it. It was really interesting, and it was something that, I don't know, maybe I don't expect some of these bigger names to do that, but I think they probably should try to put a little practical use of this somewhere into these keynotes. In particular, well, if they have an audience makes sense for that. But
Well, you remember like some of the better demos, like Tony Profits and others, they were very practical. They were just things they did day to day with it. And nobody really does with AI. They're trying to tell, here's the coolest thing we're doing with it. But
yeah,
the reality is the coolest thing is something nobody does with it other than you as a demo, right? So why not show a day, like, how am I using this in my day that works? I know I use agentic AI with like that thing, this recorder. I use it. I literally use it to help design programs for me, to give me some transcripts I need, things like that. And it's just a part of my day. It's not that, I mean, it's relatively cool in that it's the first of its type, but the reality is I'm just using it because it's practical and usable. And I use Copilot, or well, I'm actually using Perplexity more, for instead of Google search. But I mean, they're just things I do. Okay. And I
Right.
think that it doesn't have to be that, because everything does that, but show us in a business environment how you would use it as an employee, or how you would use it as a customer, and in the background is the AI of the company. Like, I think ServiceNow has done that at times, at least. I know they've done that on the analyst briefings, where they would show us now being used in a very practical way, and it was practical. It was just, okay, that's a use case that is showing how it's actually used. I think we see too much of I mean, it's fun to see a cool thing once in a while, and that's great. But show me how I actually can do something with it to make sense.
Yeah. Shout out Mr. Ralph Korb.
Hey, my friend, how are you, sir?
And what is up, Ralph? Now, Ralph is multi-channeling here.
Wow.
He was on YouTube here, and he's on LinkedIn here.
Whoa. Go, Ralph.
All right,
You have your own clone.
Ralph. Perfect segue, because I did a few good minutes with Raju. We recorded it. I didn't have a chance to break this out, but every week or every conference during these AI discussions, when it comes to talking about things like ROI or pricing models, there's a lot of nebulousness going on.
Oh,
A lot
yeah.
of them, and we kind of know why, because they don't know how much this stuff is going to cost them, because it all is coming down on energy and usages. And the more you use these things, the more you're going to use more energy, and they can't really get to a precise pricing model that makes sense for them and for their customers. But that's one of the things that was really interesting about this event. Raju laid it all out. It's like, we're not going to charge you anymore, for using the AI within our applications.
So
And the
that
reason
means,
why they feel it, well, the reason why is because they pretty much have control over their consumption, because they built out their own data centers and everything kind of run. So they're not going to get charged by one of the hyperscalers, because you're basically piggybacking off of them, and you're using energy, and that means you're going to get more charge back. Well, if you own your whole infrastructure stack, kind of like Oracle talks about too, you have a much more straight line response to the pricing question.
and of
It's
course,
just really,
Oracle's the one other company that does exactly that, no charge.
let's see, Rebecca. Yes, that's I said it, Rebecca. Nebulousness. I don't know what it means.
I think it's nebulosity or nebulous, depending.
Isn't that like
What is that?
R
Oh,
O?
ROI on what? Oh, ROI on AI, I think is what that is.
I just say ROAI or something like that. If I try to do that, I think it's one of the things that a lot of vendors are really struggling with, because it's one of those things they can't really, they can't predict how much power is going to be used by their customers as this AI stuff becomes more prevalent. So companies
Yeah.
like Oracle and Zoho, they don't have a problem at all kind of answering that question. And Pekka, remember when we got Alan on, he kind of said they got away from the subscription pricing to, he didn't say consumption, but
Yeah.
something that takes into account
Use.
use and outcomes and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really interesting to see how easily Zoho could talk about the pricing of this stuff. Matter of fact, we're going to have somebody that can talk about it even better than I can, because one of our guests just walked in.
Wow.
You know what?
That's weird. Like, walked in. I'm waiting to. Oh, they're in the green room? No.
We're going to keep her out of this shot, because I now turn things over to the venerable Paul Greenberg.
Well, I don't know which of the guests is here.
It's the one you know the most.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, this is so easy.
Yeah,
I've introduced her before.
Right.
So this person is somebody I've known for getting close to 20 years, since she was probably, I don't know, 11, right? And she's she's literally one of the most remarkable people I've ever known, and I'm not saying that lightly. Look, I'm relatively effusive about my introductions to people. Anything effusive I say about her is 100,000% true, right? She is an extraordinary practitioner, and the word extraordinary is proved because she literally won an award for it, the grand finale award from CRM Watch List. She is an extremely empathetic human being who genuinely cares about other people at a very deep level. She has an absolutely amazing family. I actually got a chance after all these years of knowing her to meet her husband, and all I could think was, God, they're so perfect for each other. It was literally like that. And the kids are, uber talented and really good kids, and that's a product of both mom and dad, right? And those kids being smart and sensible and kind. And she is one of the people who I would say is, outside of my just deep love for her, is incredibly respected by the entire industry. And that would be the person running corporate communications I was going to say here at Zoho, but they're not in my house. At Zoho, Sandy Lowe. There she is.
Hello. My gosh, everybody has to get a Paul Greenberg intro once in their life at least, right?
That's why you guys come on the show, just for that part.
I know.
That was so true, though. Every bit of it was so true.
Thank you. Thank you for that intro.
Look at Ralph says you're fabulous.
Look at Ralph. You're the
Hey, Ralph. Thank you.
You see that? You got these amazing people who love you out there.
There you go. All right. So we're sitting here at Zoholics Houston, 2025. I kind of gave a little bit of some of the stuff that I saw and seen and all that. But, you're the official Zoho person here. So tell us what's going on here.
Well, I don't know what you said, but but I'll say that this year Zoholics is a little different from past years. I think that we really shifted the focus back to our customers and what they want to know, what they want to learn, what they expect from us, instead of putting a show on that they may or may not care about. We listen to their feedback. There are tons of how-to session workshops. I mean, you heard it. We brought the presentation level to what is practical and what they can immediately benefit from. So far, so good. So far, the feedback has been really positive from customers.
Were you out there listening to me? Because I literally said that practical stuff.
I was right by the door going like this, so.
By the way, Rebecca says hello.
Hi, Rebecca. And kisses for Patrick.
I think it's really Patrick that said hello. Rebecca's just taking credit.
I can't wait to meet Patrick one day.
No, it's weird. I mean, Rebecca lives here, and even though she and I get together for lunch sometimes, I've never met Patrick. Wow. And yet I have met Minnie. And I met Minnie at CCE.
It's like when Paulie met Minnie and they ran to each other.
Who's Minnie?
Minnie, I met Victor, which is Ann Chen's husband also. But I told Victor, sorry, but I'm really excited about Minnie. Right. So you're back to the practice. Well, I mean, if I look at the historic Zoho conferences, you've always had some of that. I mean, just because the customers are very committed to figuring out Zoho. So now the customers have to deal with all the AI stuff, obviously. And so you have all these small businesses who are probably represented well in the audience. Mm-hmm. What do you tell them about using AI? Because that's not to say, we're used to talking to the enterprises about it, and they're used to thinking about it. But these are small businesses, and I mean, I'm sure you have enterprise people there too, but I'm really concerned about the small business people. What are you telling them exactly?
Well, I think that their AI know-how trajectory is the difference is huge. There are some who've never even touched any elements, and then there are others who, wow, they're ready to go with their AI confessions, and that's a thing that I'll have to talk about later. But anyway, so So we kind of start from the basics. I mean, we have for the first time an AI track, and I'm telling you, it started from the very beginning. There was even
Yeah.
setting that historical context, which I had to pull Brent out of. He's like, why am I in this session, right? So the historical context, understanding when things are, understanding the relationship, artificial intelligence had with businesses, with people, and then kind of take them up that learning curve. And then those who are ready for it, I mean, they can go the advanced sessions within each platform that we offer and really know how to gain the most benefit immediately. So I think, I think there's something in it for AI know-how of all levels here. And really, again, focus on the practical, because they're not going to have time to learn everything. So how can I help my small business survive? And that is the answer everyone's looking for.
So one thing that's different from the very first Zoholics that you spoke to in 2012, there are 18 tracks.
Holy
there's
God.
like they call it tracks, but aren't they also sort of like little like mini session boot camps people are
There's
going to?
all types. Workshop, work sessions, boot camps, lounges, one-on-ones. I mean, the whole thing is set up to help customers get their answers and help them do their jobs better with Zoho.
What a difference. I mean, the first conference was just, I gave a keynote, Gene Marks did something, and Brent said Ray was there, although I have very vague memory of that being the case. He might have been.
I don't know. I can't remember.
No, he might have been. I for some reason don't remember that. But I remember I had a conversation with Sridhar and Raju about, do you want to become players or not? That's what I told them. Not players, but players, right? And they said yes. And I said something completely wrong about Zoho's culture changing. But there were 125 people, and there weren't a whole lot of tracks, like none, I think. I think it was just people in this one room, went on for the day, and then people got to eat, and that was it, right? Evolution is like
amazing. You said 125. I think that's the exact same number, Raj.
Oh, that was the number. I remember it pretty well. Wow. I remember standing in the room, and actually, I can, in my mind's eye right now, I can see me talking to that crowd. I knew exactly. Really? And then I remember, yes, and I also remember later on being in the back of the room, looking at the crowd toward, with the podium in the front. I was in the back later looking at the crowd, and I remember even the angle I was looking at. I still have that memory.
This is getting a little over the top here.
Yeah, it's all true.
But now, like I said, that was 125, then there's 1,600 people now. I mean, a lot has changed, and it doesn't seem like it's been all that long. So that's pretty amazing what's going on.
Well, I mean, one thing people don't actually realize is that we actually do Zoholics across 40 to 50 different cities around the world, bringing these training sessions, workshops to where the customers are. And each one has its own local flavor, for sure.
Let me jump in because, was it last night? We went to dinner, and it was one of the customers was there, and then we went to lunch today, and they had another customer. This is like the first time I'm literally saying, I like both of these people that they had for dinner and lunch. I'm not all that big a people person. These folks are actually. What are you doing?
They made Brent chuckle. They made Brent laugh. Okay, so
that's not the big reason. I think they're
Rams fans.
You're a Prince fan. And
okay.
Here we go again. I know. Yep. We didn't ask the second.
It didn't ask.
He
the
may
second
not be.
Yeah, I think he was because I liked him. But one of the things is the customers, the people that attend. I've had this same kind of experience, regardless of what Zoholic number it is. People are really into these folks. Love Zoho. I mean, it's so obvious. There's a passion that I don't really see at a lot of other vendor events. Like, not a lot of those folks are coming with, pitchforks. Like, I'm coming here to like state my case. These folks are actually pretty happy and really feel like it's not just a vendor relationship. They really feel like there's a partnership. And I've noticed that. I want to hear from you, Paul. Is that something that you've picked up on like over the years, like the same kind of thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's I'll call it a proto community. It's not quite fully fleshed out yet, but there's a proto community with Zoho. And it's always it's an organic community that Zoho's kind of getting a big handle on, right? It's a community that just grew up. It's not like 15 years ago, Zoho said, we're going to have a community of the people who buy us. It literally grew because of their love and passion for the company and the people they knew at the company and so on. And that happens. It's what happened, honestly, with Salesforce in its earliest days. They had an organic community. They had no clue what to do with it initially. Then they kind of figured it out. But this one is more advanced than that. But it's been there for years. I've seen it for years. I mean, I actually remember a conference, probably, I think it was, I want to say it was probably the 2018 conference to be, that's Zoholics, that one.
2018.
Yeah, well, that was the one where, you and I were the only analysts there and Sandy came, right?
Really?
On our own nickel. Yeah, that was 2018.
We should just trust
this
it.
is getting really bad here.
No,
that was the one. That was the one that
I wasn't even an employee. Remember,
I know.
went
You came to
my
support
God,
Zoho.
Yeah.
So that conference, though, in the hallway, I was having a conversation with a Zoho partner, actually. And I was asking him, like, kind of why are you a partner of Zoho, aside from just the technology and the interest in the technology? He said, they're great people. He said, I love this company. And he says, look, and he kind of pointed out to all these people. Ooh, that was the Panasonic working, the auto.
Oh, the autofocus.
Yeah, it actually worked. He got me back in focus. He said, look at all these people out there. And he said, you have to realize something about them. He said, I'm looking at them. He said, I know 20% of them. He said, because I've been involved with Zoho and them for, I think it was 7 years at that point, for him. And he said, you have to understand something. This is just how it works here, right? And he said they communicate with us. They care about us. We care about them. He said, all we want from them is that they do well. That's what he told me. But I didn't forget that. I actually know this guy still. Well, I still know the guy, actually. So
I got to cut you off a little bit because our second guest has arrived. And that means you get to do another introduction to our other guest.
All right. Bring it on.
Well,
all right.
No.
Are we squeezing?
No,
I can hear you guys. You know that, right? Right.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So I haven't known this person nearly as long as I've known Sandy, but she is another extraordinary human being. Now, one thing we have always had in common is we love animals. Both of us love animals. We're just animal lovers. But here's the thing. I've known a lot of people throughout the years in, let's call it, alliances, partnerships, people whose job is kind of reaching out to others to, to enhance cooperation. And there are some people who have spent years like practicing and don't do it that well. This individual does it naturally and has the skill set, right? It's just, when you meet her, I just want to work with her. I just do. And, honestly, if she was independent and walking around, I'd still want to do that. It's like, that's kind of feeling you get with her. She's like Sandy. She's very much an empath. She cares about the people she works with, and she cares about the people she works for, and she cares about the people as yet unmet, I guess is the best way to put it. And she's always kind of happy. I guess that's another way to put it. She's always got a smile. And yet you're talking about a highly skilled practitioner here, not just a friendly person, right? So let's bring on Summer Parkersperry. Yay, there she is. And by the way, great hugger.
Oh.
Important things. Thank you, Paul.
I have to say that.
Oh, so if you guys might have to just pass the mic Since we only
Ooh, is Cold Rice there?
that was like a nice little segue into another show I do. I did not mean to say that.
That's right. Work though.
By the way, you had her like blushing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That is the nicest introduction I've ever received. Thank you, Paul. That's so flattering, so kind.
All true. See, and remember what I said about that smile? There it is. Right?
Oh, by the way,
Very glad to hear
Rebecca
it.
and Patrick, I'm sure, are saying hi. Soon.
Oh, hello. How are y'all, Rebecca? How are you?
All right, so I was talking about how I liked the customers I met at dinner and lunch. That you're the head of all this customer advisory, and keep a firm grip on the customers and the use case. So I have to really congratulate you because I don't think I've met a bad Zoho customer yet.
We love to hear that.
Absolutely.
Thankfully, we have an easy job because lots of our customers are very happy. We have really good customers. We have really good companies, really good people. It's really rare that I meet someone that I don't enjoy. So I'm glad you've had the same experience.
Absolutely.
I actually have one of the things I get a lot of.
I mean,
Go
I
ahead.
don't dislike Prince, but I wouldn't call myself.
Start backtracking a little bit.
Oh, she's not my son.
I love it.
Right, and that's it for today.
All right, I'll still continue on like you had not said that. But so at lunch, I know that the guy his company is Nova.
Yeah, so at lunch it was Nuvia Dental Implants or
yes.
Nuvia Smiles.
And he called himself the chief nerd.
Yes, his self-appointed title started with Nuvia Smiles when they launched in 2020, and they've grown immensely. They're a huge company scaling to over 30 locations across the U.S. and lots of growth over time. So he's a cool guy.
He said that he's a member of the customer advisory board, and he was like, it's been a good experience so far because I actually feel like they're listening to me. And he started ripping off a couple of things, and he's really happy about what's going on with that. Talk a little bit about how do you go about putting a successful customer advisory board together, and how does it work? Yeah.
That is such a good question. And it's taken some trial and error. I won't lie. We started the customer advisory board 7 or 8 years ago now.
I remember.
Yeah.
Remember.
And it's taken some time to really find a flow with it, to make sure that folks are not only being listened to, but that their changes are being made. The things that they're requesting are getting done. And that's really taken a turn. I would say in the last 4 or 5 years, we've really found a good stride with it. And so much of it is, number one, having the right customers there, but also bringing the right folks internally there. So our customer advisory board meets 4 times a year. And then, of course, we stay in touch throughout the year. But in those meetings, we have time where not only they have time to discuss with themselves and to figure out what they think is important to present, but then we bring in key leadership. We bring in our C-suite to hear directly from these customers on what they think needs to change, what their experience is, and what's been going on. And I think that's so key is not only having the customers and the right people in the right place, but the right people internally who can hear that feedback and make sure that it's acted on.
How do you decide who's on the customer advisory board from the side of the customers, at least?
That's a great question because from an advocacy perspective, we work with so many customers that we really have to kind of carefully select. If we had room on the customer advisory board for 50 people, we would probably have them there. But it really is best kept to a small group. We cap it at 10 so that we can keep it to a productive discussion where we're really getting decisions and impact and changes made. So in terms of selection, we look at, number one, what are some of the people that are having great usage with Zoho? What are some of the people who are growing fast with Zoho? But we also want people who internally are committed to helping Zoho change their organization. A lot of these companies you will see, they care so much about helping Zoho be implemented correctly in their company, about helping their company. They are so, they come in advocates of Zoho already. They come in such internal champions of Zoho that is such a huge factor there. But we also, of course, want to make sure that it's representative of the Zoho community. So part of the big thing is, it's easy to run a customer advisory board and start giving them special things and special treatment. We try not to do that. We pilot programs with them, but we really want them to represent the experience of the average customer of Zoho. So it's not just enterprises. We have people in that board who are across sizes. We have a fairly small company, Island Psychiatry Practice, who just joined, a very large practice, a very successful psychiatry practice. One of the smaller customers on the board, but their experience is just as important, and their implementation is just as complex as some of the enterprises on there. So it's really a matter of balancing those perspectives and making sure that they're bringing the right experience there as well.
What about, I mean, this is a practical thing, but I know a lot of customer advisory boards wrestle with the idea of, I'll call it a term limit, 2 years and it could be 2 years with one possible renewal, and then you're done no matter what. I mean, how do you do, just on that side, how do you handle that? The procedural
Yeah, that's
side.
a great question. So we do not have an annual turnover on the cab. We do not have any sort of, we don't do it on a standard basis. We do it based on contribution and based on what the company goals are. So as our goals change, as we start focusing on, different markets or verticals, we might update the cab based on that. If we see folks are, having a lot of success, don't really have a lot of feedback for us anymore, then that might be something where we look to shift them to a different program and bring in some new perspectives. So we've had the same folks on the cab for quite some time. We still have 2 of the original members that are on the cab.
How long have they been
continue
on
to
there?
advise. They've been on there since the beginning.
Wow.
Yes.
That's 7 years or 8 years?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a long time.
And they've And so we're dealing with not only what they originally had, but they're also giving us feedback about that acquisition process. One of them at the most recent cab meeting, we have a new representative who is from the company that acquired them, speaking with the company who acquired.
That's kind of interesting.
So it really gives us a unique perspective on things. But we brought in 5 or 6 new customers this year, and all great new voices that are helping to kind of re-engage and reliven the conversation. So we don't do it on a strict term limit like everything in Zoho. There is no standard protocol for that. We go based on what we think is best and what we're seeing in those meetings and respond accordingly.
How do you two work together? Because you're corporate comms and you're customer advisory. How do you guys work together?
Well, I feel very lucky to work with Sandy because she gives us a lot of great autonomy to do what we see needs done and really supports us in those processes. Of course, the things that we talk about really inform our discussions and drive what we move to do. But Sandy is really great in letting us run with things and supporting us along the way.
Yeah, well, we're a corporate communications family. It goes far, it extends far, and we are codependent on each other, our success, our joint success. So love this girl.
Oh, wow. We're getting ready to hug here.
Yes.
I'm
Love
good.
this so much.
We know
So-
you'll be good with the hug. So.
I know. Oh, it's like we're missing Paul in this moment.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it's going to be that way for a long time. Right. I am so done with going to conferences. Even yours. Yours was, I will tell you this, though, guys. Yours was literally the most difficult one to give up. I did not want to give it up, but I realized I better stick to my guns on all these things. Otherwise, I'll end up weakening. Right. So
No, his Hug Fest will be at IRL 26. Whenever
that's right. 2026 in Atlanta next year.
don't have a date yet. We're working on that quick.
All right. All right.
All right. So, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was, this is corporate communication. So another thing, I think, just for general information, there's a lot of people who don't know they know, like, okay, there's analyst relations, they know there's public relations, but they don't really know the full scope of corporate communications. Can you kind of outline what it is, at least at Zoho?
Yeah. So corporate communications is, wow, it's pretty expansive. So there's media relations, there is community relations, employee communications, customer advocacy, analyst relations, and we don't have investor relations, but we do have a category we call thought leadership and content, and that is where Mickey Stanley comes in. And I know you guys are all Mickey fans.
We love Mickey.
Yes, he actually just peeked in. I think he wanted to join,
Oh,
and then
we would love to have Mickey come in.
yeah. So it's really, you're representing the company in all aspects of communications, from internal to external stakeholders.
That's a big mandate, like a really big mandate. Actually, it's interesting because most companies vary in what there are some companies that corporate communications is pretty much one of the categories you mentioned, which is the media relations, or it would be AR and PR basically, and not a whole lot else, but it doesn't cover this. Yours is basically all internal and outreach, right? All of it, of any kind, which is a big big portfolio. Good luck. Right.
Well, let's ask them each this. How many years have you been at Zoho?
I just reached my 7 years anniversary.
Yep. That's right.
Yes.
7 years.
That's right.
Anniversary, yes.
Happy
Time
anniversary.
Thank you.
I hit 10 years in August, so it's been
Wow.
a minute. Yeah.
Happy
You know what?
anniversary.
Usually I'd be impressed with those numbers,
Yeah.
but we're at Zoho. We're like, what, 10% of the folks have been here like 20 years or
I
something
was
like
about
that?
to say you can combine both yours together and it still doesn't quite do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're like considered whippersnappers.
That's right.
Zoho.
That's right.
I know. I can never catch up and have veteran status. But I think for US, US workforce, Summer's one of the oldest.
Getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was US employee number 44.
Wow,
So,
really?
Yeah.
That's pretty
Really?
amazing.
Yep.
So 2015, you were 44. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wait,
It's scale.
I was right. So when I met Raju, I met him at CRM Evolution in 2000 and what, 11 or 12 or something? Or something like that. No, it's even, I mean, I've known.
I think it's before that, actually.
Yeah, it has to be because I've known Zoho 22 years. Right. So, and I thought he would, for years, I am not joking. He would show up at CRM Evolution for years. And he was the only person who would show up. And I once went to him, I said, "Are you the only employee of Zoho?" And I said, "Why do you still work?" I literally asked him, "Why do you still work for them if you're the only person?" Right? I said, "Might as well do your own thing." I literally had no idea there was like more than him. He didn't. He was so, not secretive, but he wouldn't talk about anything else. So, I mean, but what was he then? Employee number 1 in the U.S.?
He is. Yeah. He's definitely, I think, in the single digits.
It
Yeah.
must have been, because if you were 44 and that was 2015, and this was years before that, you didn't grow super fast in those years. You just added slowly. And then you, since then,
Yep.
I know.
Like
yeah. I mean, it's just like astounding.
Let me get Ralph's comment in here.
Yeah.
Zoho, cool products, even cooler team, makes a
Amen.
really good experience.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thanks, Ralph. Reach out anytime if you want to share your story.
Yeah, testimonials are welcome. So what do you want people to walk away from this particular Zoholics?
I'm going to let Summer answer that question.
I want folks to walk away from Zoholics feeling more empowered to help their businesses.
Mhm.
That is really the goal. That's across all of our sessions. We have more customer participation in our sessions than any prior year. We have 30 customers, 35 that have been speaking across 20, 25 different sessions at Zoholics. And even through those, the goal is to help folks understand how it can be used better. What are other people doing that they can be utilizing? There is so much power in community, and that is so much of what Zoholics does for us, is it gathers that community in a place where everyone can talk about that and really figure out the best way to do things and how else they should grow and how else they can help their companies.
That was a great answer. I got a little distracted by Michael.
Right. Michael, by the
pitching himself.
well, Michael, actually, the irony of that pitch is Michael genuinely is like one of the retail industry leaders. He ran Adobe's industry, Adobe's retail for years. He's amazing.
Email me.
Seriously, if you think of anybody for retail, he's the guy. He's brilliant at it.
Retail device for people to be able to pay for stuff.
Yes.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant at it.
And what did Michael say about Zoholics, since he referenced?
Brent, you want to tell him? You want to go back to his comment?
My comment.
Raise his comment.
What's that?
No, it's all right. It's funny.
All right. Well, first of all, thanks for. I got my own.
Right.
I always carry my. Thanks for doing this. I know you guys are in the heart. I guess you're coming into the rounding third base, getting ready to come into home, sliding. You'll be safe, I'm sure. But thanks for taking time to do this. We really appreciate it. Any other things? Anything else before we let them go?
I don't know. I'm good. I just appreciate the fact you guys came and I get to talk to you. I mean, again, that's what I miss. It's not. I honestly don't miss conferences, but I miss being able to sit down with you guys and just talking.
I know we miss you.
We miss you, Paul.
Yeah,
too.
like at the
That's-
dinner table yesterday, it was definitely not the same without you.
I wish I. Well, I honestly, I do wish I was there. Although I still wish I'm glad I'm home. I will say that.
All right, so we'll let them go. We'll close the show. So, on behalf of Summer Parker Perry and Sandy Lowe, I had to make sure I said your name right. I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and Michael Klein is definitely making sure.
It's so true, though. I mean, if you want to hire a retail guy, he's the guy.
He's the guy. All right, we will see you next week when I think I'll be back home after a month of travel. I'll be so glad to be home. Later.